Okay, let's jump right into this. At the core of what we're looking at today is this conversation, a talk between a son and his father that feels, incredibly strange, but at the same time deeply familiar. The son, his name is Evan, is grappling with this problem that feels just ancient. And his father? Well, he seems to be on a completely different planet.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures the whole problem, doesn't it? Evan's in the middle of this massive 5,000-year confession, pouring his heart out, and his dad just asks about bread. It's the ultimate communication breakdown. You've got one person speaking from the cosmos, and the other one is talking about the kitchen.
So Evan's very specific problem quickly turns into a question I think we've all faced at some point. How do you get through to somebody? I mean, really get through. How can you make someone learn something you know is good for them? This isn't just about some cosmic guilt anymore. It's about the fundamental challenge of just making ourselves understood and truly connecting with another person.
But what if the father isn't changing the subject at all? What if he's actually answering Evan, just in a language that Evan doesn't understand, yet? This is where things get really, really interesting. The father starts to reveal this hidden framework, almost like a blueprint for how all communication actually works.
He calls it the chain of communication. And here's the big idea. For a message to truly land, it has to travel all the way up one person's chain and then all the way down the others. It starts at the very bottom with our animal body, then it moves up to the human ego, then our soul, and finally, it reaches the divine conscience. That last one is described as this highest level of just instant shared understanding. The big problem, though, for most of us, this chain is broken.
So let's break this whole thing down, starting with the two levels where, let's be honest, almost all of our daily interactions actually take place.
Okay, so first up, you've got animal talk. This is purely physical, purely instinctual. It's communication through our five senses, like a hug or a high five. But most of our day is actually spent in what's called ego talk. This is where our personality lives. It's the whole world of our thoughts, our emotions, arguments, opinions, basically all the stuff we talk about for work, for school, and in our social lives.
And this right here is the absolute crucial point from the father's explanation. For most people, most of the time, the ego is the ceiling. That's as high as communication ever gets. And according to this model, that is one of the biggest reasons we have so many conflicts and misunderstandings.
So what happens when we do manage to go higher, beyond that ego level? Well, that's when we enter this more, let's say, mystical realm of communication. And it operates on a completely different set of rules.
Soul talk, it bypasses the physical world completely. It activates what the source here calls soul senses, things like our intuition, that gut feeling you get, or even what feels like mind-to-mind messages. You know that moment when a silent thought just seems to land perfectly in someone else's head? That's it. And here's a key point the father makes. These mystic laws, they don't just turn off because someone doesn't believe in them. They're always at play.
Okay, so if we can just bypass the messy ego and talk directly from soul to soul, that has to be the ideal form of connection, right? Well, this is where the father's model introduces a really powerful and frankly, a pretty dark complication.
I mean, it's the logical next question, isn't it? If we can just skip all that messy ego stuff and connect on this deep, intuitive level, haven't we kind of solved the whole problem? It really seems like this should be the ultimate goal of all communication.
But then we get hit with this chilling warning. The father explains that every single soul, as it's learning and evolving, also grows a shadow side, a selfish, foolish, and immoral part, a personal monster that every single one of us carries inside.
And the metaphor used to explain this conflict is just so powerful. Picture this. Your body is a horse. And your soul, it isn't one single rider, it's two. You've got the virtuous rider, the one seeking wisdom, and then you have its shadow, pulling in the complete opposite direction. And they're both on the same horse, constantly fighting for control of the reins.
So this internal war, it has massive consequences for every single conversation we ever have. Because if there are two riders, well, we have to ask a very important question. Who's actually speaking?
So here's the takeaway. Even when we think we're communicating from a deep, soulful place, it might actually be our shadow side holding the reins. That selfish, foolish part of us can use our soul's abilities for its own ends. And what that means is that soul talk, which we thought was the purest form of connection, can't always be trusted. We might be speaking from that shadow monster without even realizing it's happening.
And that brings this entire fascinating model right back home to us. It forces us to ask a really difficult question about our own lives, our own interactions. When you talk, when you argue, when you connect with someone, which rider is actually holding the reins?